Hello. Since the wireframes are already approved, the next step is to select the color palette that we're gonna use for the new UI of the application. So let me quickly walk you through the process that I followed to select the color scheme and the exercise that I did applying those color schemes to the application itself. So first I started with the icon. Again, this is the icon of the company. So I wanted to take the colors from here because one of the main goals that I want is that the color palette is going to represent the brand. When somebody interacts with the application, that's an extension of the company. So I want to make sure that the color that we select, it is aligned with the brand. The second option or the second goal that I have for the color palette is to make it easier for the user to interact with the application by making it a lot easier, a lot pleasant experience for the eye, making a low contrast so it's easy to understand. Because on the application we have a lot of fields, a lot of input, so it is a lot of noise already. So I wanted to make it as calm as possible and reducing the contrast so it is a lot pleasant experience for the user. So I started with the icon of the logo, and I was able to select the main three colors: the greens, the magentas, the purplish, and the blues. So I started with that point. Then I noticed that this blue is too different from that. And again, for the logo, it works. For the application, I want to make sure that it's a more harmonious experience. So I added a little bit of magenta to the blue so it's closer to these two. And my goal was for these two to work together more easier. So and that's why I continue working with the process. I decided to tone down the opacity of this. So it's again trying to make it a more calm experience, lower contrast between the inputs and the fields. And I keep doing the same thing. I add a little bit dark. So I end up with this and color palette to start with. Again, this is just by selecting the color, and now we're gonna see how it translates on the real world application to the color palette into the wireframes that we created. This is one of the basic screens. I think that it's we're able to reflect everything that we try to achieve. We have the blues, the purples, and the green, so everything is working together nicely. But it is a simple page. So now let's put it to the test with a more complex page. This is another option. It's still working together. But on this application, you can see that it is a lot going on. So we have this now the colors that used to work together fine. Now it seems like it's creating more noise than necessarily on this page. So I wasn't happy at all, but that was the first attempt. So but at least we got it to a point that okay, let's see where it takes us. So here I was trying to make the more soft, introducing the magentas, but more soft. But still, I wasn't happy with it. It's too much going on. Again, we have too many fields, and the contrast it's too heavy. So I wanted to reduce the contrast as much as possible because that's going to create a more pleasant experience and even experience across the use of the application. On this one over here, you can see that this one we don't have cards. So this one I introduce the option of the cards, and I think that helps to encapsulate each section on its own, which is a good visual reference for the user on which section are they working at. And also it creates a nice canvas for all the different inputs. Normally when I have these cards, I like for the inputs to have a little bit of contrast because at the end we want these input fields to stand out so it's easy for the user to see exactly where we need them to interact with the application. So far we have the line, which is fine, but then I would like to have just a little bit of contrast so these inputs stand out a little bit more. This is way too much contrast, but I wanted to try just something like a dark mode kind of thing with the blues and the greens. You can see that I am moving away from magenta or that purplish color because I don't know, it wasn't working well for the application. But just in case I try this to extreme, just to confirm that this is not the right color that we should use. So I'm gonna skip through that. So here I started moving more towards the green as opposed to the reddish color here, which I think it's better than the purple, but it's still not hitting the spot. Now this one over here, I think that we have achieved a good balance. As you can see, all these different screens that I have shown you, they have exactly the same components, exactly the same layout, nothing has changed except the colors. And you can see how big difference this one looks compared to the other ones. And here we have everything, it's nice. We have the cards, we have the titles, we have the same sections, but everything, it looks a lot smoother, so a lot easier to look at. The input fields, you have a nice contrast, just enough to know that this is an input field to stand out, and this is just a background. So I think that this one is working really well. Now for this one, since we are moving away from these colors on the reds, on the magentas, I am trying to include it on some gradient parts, but not as an element, and instead I'm using the greens as the call to actions, or the main clickable things that we want the user to understand that if it's green, it's the main thing that we want you to click. This one is the same. I just wanted to see how it looks instead of the green, for this one to be light blue, which is nice. It's a good option, but I think that this one helps create the habits for the user that yes, this is the green, that so this is the main clickable thing, and also add some accent of colors. But again, I think it works really well as well with these blues. But as you can see, I think that this end between these two, the only difference between these two are the color of this menu. But I think that we have a good color combination that it work really well. Everything is really smooth, easy to understand, easy to follow. So I'm going to send you JPEGs of all these different screens so you can take your time analyzing, and then we can have a call so we can go over this option, and then you can let me know your feedback, because once we select the color palettes, then we just need to apply them to the rest of the different sections. That's why I haven't applied it to all the wireframes, because the first impression, that's what we are trying to achieve first. Okay, this first impression, this color palette is gonna work well, so that's why I'm just focusing on the top section of the page. But I'll send you the different screenshots so you can take your time, go through it, analyze, give me your feedback. Maybe you want to try something else. So that's the main goal. Let's select the color palette for the application to make sure that it is aligned with the goal, that it's easy for the eye, and it matches the brand. Oh, speaking about the brand, I am also working on the icons. Sorry about that. Over here. So this is the original icon of the logo. I am trying to simplify this icon because when it gets too small, you'd lose the detail of the brain. I think it's really nice that we have the solid brain and then this cybernetic brain, which is good, but it is a lot of details to be an icon, especially if we're gonna use it in a small size. You can see how it started losing the details. So I wanted to simplify it so it's solid, it doesn't matter which size. I'm still not happy with these options, but just to let you know that I'm working with it, just so we can standardize the logo as well as part of the project. So at the end, we're gonna have a good solid application that it's well branded with the same color scheme, of at least very close. It isn't gonna look like a total revamp, but it's gonna look a nice refresher for the brand. Okay, so I'll be waiting to hear back from you so we can finalize this color palette for the new UI of the application, and we can move to the next step. Thank you.